So I can talk through this mic. Okay. So, happy Sabbath, everyone. We're going to mark Sabbath officially with a candle lighting and some music in a moment. But for a while, I wanted to just talk to you about the evening and the weekend and some of the significance of it. 30 years ago, 1993, David Horowitz turned 90, and if you do the math, it was the 50th anniversary meeting. And I believe two people here were in New York. Timothy, were you? Raise your hand again. I called him Judas because he carries the purse. And Ralph, would you stand up, our Executive Vice President, Ralph Bunton? So we had our annual meeting in New York, and Ralph tomorrow is going to talk about that a little bit more. But I wanted to note the 30-year mark. That's the year I met Timothy, and we all went up to New York City, a bunch of us. Ross hadn't come along yet and joined us, nor had the Tylers, but Ross was beginning to learn and hear about UIW, and certainly later was there many times. So 90th birthday, celebrating the 50th anniversary. Think about that, 30 years ago. Now, some of you follow my YouTube channel, and you know recently I put up a video about 30 years ago because two other things happened that year. One of them was going on actually just after the April meeting, and that was the Waco disaster. Waco, Texas, February 28th to April the 19th. And we met up in New York a week or two before that. So the video I put up talks about that a little bit, but it also talks about the release of the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you remember, in 1992 and 3, about 30 to 40% of the Dead Sea Scrolls had not been released to the public yet. And now they're all out and available. So I think of that too. I think of 30 years ago with these landmark kinds of things. I was catapulted into the public arena that year for the first time. If you watch that video, you'll see the McNeil Lehrer film coming to Guilford College, where I was doing a BAR seminar talking about these early scrolls. And as you know, PBS News does a really thorough report on things. So it goes for 15, 20 minutes. And you'll see a much younger Timothy Thompson and a much younger James Tabor. But we still had the music, so to speak. We had the feeling, and we knew what we were doing. So that was quite a year. David turned 90, 50th anniversary of UIW. I met Ralph at that meeting. We had corresponded. I believe, had you met David the year before that, Ralph? Yeah. So just standing here 30 years later, I find very moving to think about. David stood up, and I'm going to edit and put this on YouTube. It's VHS, and I think I'll send it to Seth because he can enhance it a little bit. But we'll digitize it, and we'll put it up on our web pages. For you to see David at age 90 stand up and give this unbelievable lecture or talk, it was chilling. And we have that on tape. It's not a high quality tape, but you'll be able to understand it. David died October 27, 202. So you can see that he lived on until he was 99. He would have turned 100 the next April if he lived to 203. In 203, this meeting went ahead and met in New York, not Charlotte. And I was elected to be president. David had asked me if I would consider it. And before he died, Ralph and I went up and spent time with him at his bedside. And he said, I've got treasures of material at the UN, here in my New York apartment, at at my New Jersey cottage where he and his wife had a place outside of the city. And he basically said, would you all take this over? And we didn't fully realize at that point what we were taking over, but it was pretty amazing. Could you hand me that book there? If you want to know a systematic study of what we were taking over and a wonderful narrative, all of that material got turned into this. We still have the archives. Some of them are so precious that I used to bring them to UI meetings and put them out in glassine covers, but actually those folders aren't good for preserving old. They have that acid in them, and so right now they're sealed up, and we will figure out a way to preserve them. But the contents of David's work at the United Nations since its founding in the founders meeting, was it in 44 or 45 in San Francisco and so forth? And these are available as well. So we had our New York meeting, and then because I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a professor here, I've retired now, but I was a full professor, and I became chair of the department in 2005. Right at that time, we started meeting in Charlotte. In the first years, 2004, 5, and 6, we met at the Courtyard Marriott. You say, why is he telling us all that? Because I want you to see our advances that we've made here. And it was just a humble little meeting of 33 people. We did not arrange it that way. We counted people, made sure everybody was out of the restrooms or whatever, because I didn't believe it, and it was 33 people. 33 is a number that David always favored. His early autobiography is called 33 Candles. It has to do with certain mystical meanings, and it's popped up a lot in this movement. But anyway, we had 33 people. We had everybody sign their name, and we have that original document now as one of our archives. And let's see, who was at that first meeting in Charlotte? Raise your hand. Betty, Ralph, okay, Ross. Yeah, not yet. You came in 95 or 6, I think, though. So then in 2007, we met in a tent in the parking lot of UIWU. We just decided, why rent a hotel? We've got the office. Kind of like Ross has a situation down there. You don't need to go to a hotel. You need places to stay, but just use the property you have. And he has a much bigger place than we had. But we set up the big tent, and it was fabulous. Beautiful tables. Lori did this amazing job with, if you know Lori, place settings and things at each table and free gifts. It was just incredible. And that was before the Tylers started coming and doing this amazing music that you're going to hear tonight, as well as tomorrow and throughout the weekend. So we started meeting at the Doubletree Hotel, and that was in 2008. For 2 years we met here. No, 3 years, 2008, 9, and 10. And we picked it because 30 years ago, we had a board meeting here of United Israel before David Horowitz died, but we had this private kind of meeting in the room right there next door. So we actually have been at this place for 30 years as of right now. But that meeting, it wasn't even called the Doubletree. But once it got called the Doubletree, and we thought of Ezekiel 37, we just couldn't resist. And we like being at the Doubletree Hotel, the Hilton. And it's beautifully located, and it's a wonderful place. We did try the Marriott in the Renaissance a couple years, and then we just came back to the Doubletree. And we've actually used this room for quite a few years. So this is the 80th. I'm jumping 30 years here. And just thinking about those times, I think we've had, because of COVID, we didn't meet officially in 2020, 2021, but in 2022, Ross did have a gathering for the April meeting, but many couldn't come. So this is our first full, open, unmasked meeting since 2019, and now we're up and running again fully with so many things ahead. It's amazing. The kinds of things that are going on, you'll hear about more in the business meeting Sunday, because I know you're all going to get up and come to that, right? It's not required, but if you want to come and hear about some of our plans in business. And tomorrow, I'm going to begin the meeting tomorrow morning and talk about basically what the vision of Horowitz was. I called it the unfolding vision as we enter the 80th year. It's the 79th anniversary, sometimes we call it 80th, but it's the 80th annual meeting. And the reason is that the original meeting was held February 5th, 1944. I'm going to explain that tomorrow. Very near where the Tylers live, right? And that's just kind of hard to believe. It was in Waterville, New York, because they had a lot of people in Utica that wanted to come and be part of this very new movement that David Horowitz had started. So tomorrow morning I will talk about that with great inspiration, I hope, and send you away understanding what we really are, that we're not a religion, we're not a church, we're not a denomination. In some ways, we're not even anything that you can join, but you could certainly, I think we would be called an association. That would actually be the legal definition, and that's used in the bylaws, an association. And I'll explain how you associate with us, what you need to do. We don't have any charismatic, well, Ross is charismatic, but we don't have any typical, when I talked about when the charismatic leader of a movement dies, you'll find refreshingly that we have nobody in this movement that thinks they're anybody, really. I mean, everybody's doing their best to advance things, but there's no, you say, well, you're the president. That's just an executive responsibility. Doesn't, you do, it means you should do a good job. And I've got, do I have 3 vice presidents now? Yeah. So, and they're all executives too, very much so. The president is executive, meaning they do stuff, but nobody's running this show. Zach is doing the video, but nobody's running. Seth, rather. I said Zach. Sorry, Seth. Boy, there's so many, I should know Seth because I have a son, Seth, also born in October. So, with red hair. So, welcome to this meeting. We're so glad to have you. And we're going to give you about a 10-minute break to go to the restroom. We're going to get set up for Patty Tyler, and we're going to light a candle. Let me just tell you about the candle. I guess this is the closest we get to religious ritual, but this little bent candle belonged to David Horowitz. So I don't light it often, but I have lit it. We have lit it the last few UI meetings, and we let it burn a little bit. Want everybody to see it, and you can. But I've got 2 more but they are both used by him. So there's something about the candle that David lit, but there's even something more about this candlestick. David received this from a Bible teacher he had. His name was Moses Gabori, who lived in what he called Old Palestine. This is back when the whole land was mandate Palestine under British rule, right? After World War I. So in 1927, that teacher gave David this candlestick. He carried it back with him to the United States. And it went with him wherever he traveled. And he lit it every Friday night, usually in his home When I visited him on July 3rd, you got to think of the year now, in the year 2000, I'm sorry, the year 1990, I'm missing decades here. The year 1990, we sat at his little kitchen table and he lit this, and that's when he told me the story. He passed it on to Becky, Ralph's wife, and Becky has now donated it for us as a movement to use. So as I'm holding it here, you know how objects are. I mean, I do archaeology. If you find a coin in a level from the first century, which I work on, as Ron is back there, Ron Vanderham dug at Mount Zion. You've dug at Mount Zion. Tyler's have dug at Mount Zion. A lot of you, several people have. There's nothing like how the material past will put you in touch with something. Now, it's all your head and your heart and your mind thinking about it, right? I carry my grandmother's wedding ring in my pocket, you know, and it means a lot because she wore it her whole life. From the day she married till the day she died, she never took it off. So what does that matter? Are you kidding? When I look at that, that's my mother's mother, from her wedding to her death. So this is David's thing. You're welcome to, you know, if you're into touching, I'm not talking about anything magical or anything, but just the idea that this is it. This is the connection from the old country, as he called it. Old Palestine, he always called it. Old Palestine. When the Jerusalem Post was called the Palestinian Post. It had nothing to do with any political identity. Ralph explains that in his book. So we're going to light this particular candle and use this particular candlestick. So since we announced the exact time of 7 o'clock, I think it's good in case somebody's driving right now. Hurry, hurry, we got to make it by 7. And they started early. We're going to start at 7. So Patty's going to take over and the others. But thank you for coming. Whenever I look at a group like this, I think, what went on to get everybody here? Just think about it. You had to have started days ago planning it, if not weeks ago, months ago. But also just getting here today, or even if you arrived yesterday or the day before, as the Tylers did. So much, and here we are sitting here on a Friday night. And all of that, we're going to let rest now. Sabbath means stop, right? We're parked, maybe checked in. Some of you came right here. But I want you to have that peaceful feeling that is one of the 10 words. Remember, right? And guard. Don't forget, and also guard it, the seventh day. It's the identity of the people of God all the way back to Genesis 2, verse 1 through 3, I think. So, okay. So if you need to just stretch a minute, say hello to the person around you, and we'll be right back.
Good evening and welcome back to this Sabbath celebration. Um, we're going to do a candle lighting, and as James said, and it's not your drinking or your eyes. That's we're trying to change the lights a little bit. Um, and James, as James said, we're going to do a candle lighting, and then we're going to play a video that you might have seen before, but it honors all who follow the Hebrew Bible, and of course David Horowitz. One other quick thing, because I hope Becky Button is listening. James talked about this candle belonging to David, and David's wife, is it? Nan, that owned a set of pearls that were given to Becky Button, and Becky Button gave them to Patty.
They're right here.
And here they are.
Okay, so let us begin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lachlim shel Shabbat. Basically, that means, blessed are you, Lord God, or Jehovah God of the universe, who gives us his holy commandments and allows us to light the candles on the Sabbath. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
All right, we're going to show a video now, and are we ready, Andy? Okay, we're going to show the video that we filmed after our son died in Israel, and if it wasn't for people like James Tabor and others, we would have never went to Tamar, but it was a place where we found ourselves again, a very holy place in the desert, as James has spoken on many times, and this was filmed there, and an amazing events that caused this filming to happen.
Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. For they will fall as rain from the sky, and as dew on the grass they will lie. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh and tell of what rightly is his. For his works are faithful, his words are true. Ki la'olam chasdo, ki tov le'adon la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adon Yahweh. Give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good.
It was a way to, you know, heal ourselves after a very bad event in our lives. It's funny, the few things I wanted to mention. Perlmutter was writing all the time in the more Hebrew roots movements, and there was a name of a Jewish man in Rochester, New York, who wrote Pita Tikva. Do you remember this, Patty? Pita Tikva. And Perlmutter was always writing in there, and I never met him, but James took us to Tamar, and I'm like, well, why in the heck are we going down to this place? And his Perlmutter was here, and of course the Coxons, who are just amazingly beautiful people that we've worked with, and then we start realizing the biblical significance of Erevot and the Tamar area, and James does some good talks there on YouTube, and Ross also talks about the alligator or the crocodile farm being in the Bible too. And those crocodiles are something over there. There's an 18-foot one, and he's named Box, and he's 90 years old, and he has his harem, and no one goes near him because he's a big boy. Yes, sir. I'm going to tell you, that came as a surprise to me because I never saw it from those angles. Yeah. Well, we'll tell you just one quick story. So we had arranged for this to be filmed, and we arranged for this to be filmed, and the day before we went into Israel, we spent all this money, and the day before we get to Tamar, and the filmmaker calls me and says, I have bad news. I said, what happened? He said, I flew too close to an Israeli radar installation, and they jammed my drone, and it went down, and they took it. He came. Then he told us that, yeah. So then I had a call to my really good friend Elon Pomerantz, who's became such a good friend. He's on the board of directors of our company, and we talk all the time about Israeli business. And I said, Elon, I know this is just a shot in the dark, but I got everything here to go. And he goes, let me make a call. So a Jew named Yehoshua Fleischer calls me and says, I hear you need some drone photography. I said, yes, Yehoshua, I would love to hit that. He spoke very good English, and he said, I'm from New Jersey. So I said, when do you need it? I said, we need it tomorrow. He goes, well, I'm on my duty, my IDF duty, and I can't leave. And I said, okay, well, I can't wait 2 weeks. So I hang up the phone, and I'm really depressed, and Dave Cole was with us, and we're trying to figure out how to do it, and 30 minutes later, I get a call from Yehoshua, and Yehoshua was moping at his desk, and his colonel said, what's your problem? He said, these people are here from the United States, and they want to do a film. On what? The Song of Moses, Deuteronomy 32. He goes, go. So Yehoshua comes down, and he's in his military fatigues, and he's got his guns, and he goes, I'm Yehoshua. And he goes, I got a drone from the IDF. He had this drone, and it is amazing. And we go up there the next morning at 5 a.m. because it's really hot and Patty's sweating and all that, and he kept flying around, and I'm like, I hope this all comes out. And then you saw the final product, and people have criticized us for the name of God being used, but the cipher created that name. We did not insert a name. The cipher that Dennis McCorkle creates what it is. You can't change that. But we didn't mean it that way. We just did it authentic to his cipher. And his cipher reads over the vowel pointing and connotation marks on the Hebrew text, and it comes up with a melody. It's an algorithm. It's all it is, and it seems to work pretty nice. And so maybe that is the original melody, or maybe it's not. But it worked out nice. So that was it. Tomorrow we're gonna, as James was talking about, how did you get here tonight? We're going to have a discussion tomorrow afternoon, an open discussion, non-attribution. It will not be streamed live, and it's going to be, hey, Morgan, how did you come to this place? How did you get here? And you get your 3 minutes, and we have this, and Ross is going to be the drill sergeant, and you get your three and a half minutes, and then he's going to take the mic away from you, because we want as many people to talk. And don't be afraid to talk about anything, and it's non-attribution, and we want to build a spirit of connectivity to everyone here. And then, oddly enough, James gave me a title to talk to on music, which I'm not going to review. I'm not going to refuse that. And that music then will go into our tomorrow night's Tyler Box quartet. Andy and Tammy Boxer in the back. Are they? Well, there's Andy right there, and Tammy's back there. And we put the songs together that are influenced by the spirituality of the Hebrew Bible. I mean, there might be one or two out-and-out praise songs, but it's the impact that it had on popular music. And so my talk is going to go into these things and how musical the Bible really is, and people don't realize the canticles that are in there, and besides the Psalms and all the other declarations. And of course, I'm sure you're all aware that certain rabbis think that the Torah was sung into existence. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'll go into some of the other genres in my talk, but I'll then focus on some of our favorite artists and just how deeply they've been impacted. Maybe they don't even know they've been impacted by the Hebrew Bible as much as they have. But anyways, I hope you come and see us tomorrow night. It'll be like 16 songs or something like that. And we want some audience participation. We have some words that you have to sing with us. So we have a little surprise, and it should be a really good thing. And we're trying to build some sort of essence of what it's like to be part of United Israel, because we're away so much and apart so much that. Yeah, we'll get the right people here though, and you realize how much the Hebrew Bible has impacted people. And in my talk, I'm going to go on the con too, because people don't like the dictates of the Hebrew Bible, some of them. And so I'm open-minded about this, explaining that impact doesn't always mean good. It can mean bad too. In the whole world, I got some maps that I'll show you. The whole world is kind of heard of these obscure people like Ezekiel or Yeshayahu or what? And there's people in China that know of these people that lived over 2,000 years ago, and it's amazing in what they said. And about the Decalogue faith and how it impacted the three great faiths of the Abrahamic faith. And so we're going to kind of mix that all up. And like I say, it's really just to be a fun time. And like I also said, the open dialogue we're going to have, think about what you would say in 3 or 4 sentences. And we got our sergeant at arms over there. He ain't going to let you go on for 20 minutes like some people would. But I mean, I'm just saying, it's, kind of think about how would I summarize how I got here. I started out here, I thought about this happened, and then, and I want people to talk, because I know it's kind of embarrassing for some people, or they're shy, but everyone here is loved and cared for, and all of you have an impact on where this movement goes. We need other people that are going to come in and understand where we're at, and none of us have the same exact faith right now. Very common elements, but not everyone's the same, and that's the great thing about this group, or this association, as James just said. It allows for diversity, and it's also very agile and dynamic. And if you want to come run around the desert, you're more than welcome to come with us anytime. Find fragments of ancient manuscripts, whatever you want to do. It's a great thing. And the only other thing I'm going to say is, obviously, Dr. Tabor was world renowned and is a great writer, and we all love that. But I don't know about you, but Ross Nichols, man, you've been bringing the end up, and we really appreciate you. Ross, you're doing every Saturday. I can't imagine. I worried for like 13 weeks about what I was going to do, and you every Saturday you come up with these great things, and you're seeing things. I'm seeing things I never saw in the Hebrew Bible before, and I think you're doing a great job, and you're really making us all very. I'm interested in to hear you talk every week. It's not like, you've been to churches or other synagogues. They're going to say the same thing. Not with Ross, and you might not agree with them, but it's exciting, and that's what I like about it. It keeps it fresh. And of course, I also think that Dr. Tabor is harder working now that he's left school. I mean, I see every time in my feed in my Twitter or YouTube, a new video by Dr. James Tabor. I'm like, oh my God, James, just slow down. But it keeps us interested, and it also helps us identify. A lot of us came out of Christianity. How did that happen? And what time? This Hebrew roots movement, it all kind of started then, didn't it? It's beautiful. Well, I don't want to take any more time, and just want to thank everyone for watching. And tomorrow it should be some great talks, and then Sunday there'll be some other additional talks. Ross's talk is on Sunday. I don't think you're going to want to miss it. And you might be getting on a plane with us going to England or Germany or somewhere out in Jordan. Who knows? We got some interesting things coming up, and it makes it exciting. And I just want to say thank you all, and Shabbat Shalom.
So we've officially got this room until 9 o'clock, so feel free to look at things and hang out. The courtyard here is really lovely in the evening, unless there's a wedding or a special event, which I haven't seen any signs of. We take it over and do what we want. The bar is open. There's also a pretty good menu on the, you'll be surprised if you're into pizza, for example. Their pizza, I don't know how they do it, but I would think it's as good. Yeah, it must be it, yeah. But so anyway, hang out and, we like this place, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add that if you don't have the program, grab a copy, and we're going to try really hard to stick with the program. Things flow better. And remember, we have people that, wherever back home, and they want to watch. So at 9:30, we kick off in the morning. So what I'd like you to understand is that 9:30 kickoff means 9:30 we're going to start. So come in at 9:15, mill around, get seated.
Coffee will be here at 8:30.
Yeah, and so we've got coffee coming. There's caffeinated and decaffeinated. And so try to be in your seats at before 9:25, because we want to make sure everything's working. Mic's working. 9:30 we go live. Now tonight, you're welcome. Like James said, we can stay in here until 9. Some of you may want to meet out in the courtyard. We don't judge you if you drink or if you don't drink alcohol. There's some of both in this group. The Bible talks about it. The drunkards of Ephraim, some of those are here tonight. So we're not going to judge. You do whatever you want. You stay. I'll probably be out. Dave and I closed the place down last night, and I mean not the bar, but the place. It was yeah. So, but please feel free to join us. We'll be there as late as you can stay up, probably. But just remember, however late you stay up, you just have to be in here ready for 9:30 kickoff. All right. Any questions about tomorrow? Casual dress. You dress how you want to. You're welcome, however. All right. That's all we have. Shabbat shalom, everybody.